Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
Testing, 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, we're alive, we're well, and we've got a story to tell. This time, we're gonna settle in the west of Germany, and we're joined by Phry. It's been cool and interesting to me because I've already been able to connect with people from different walks of life and living in different pockets of the world, from the U.S., places like Pittsburgh and Utah, up to Canada, and now we're gonna hunker down in Germany. Phry was kind enough to set some time aside and share his journey through navigating his way out of a toxic environment, an unhealthy environment, to put him in a better place mentally, emotionally, and even physically. You know, because stress, anxiety, depression, all of that has an effect on our minds, of course, our spirit, but also our physical health. So he unpacks a lot of his early childhood trauma, his feeling of neglect, abandonment, of not being accepted or, in a way, outcasted from his peers, his classmates, his battle with depression, and how music got a hold of him. That was his therapy. That was something that he was able to ground himself in and brought meaning to his life, brought happiness to his life, and how he's in a better place now because of it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Phry in his story. Hallo, heute ist Phry bei uns. Phry, wie geht's dir?
Mir geht's gut, vielen Dank.
I just had to throw my German in there.
Wow, I'm impressed. That was perfect.
I guess you can say, ich kann bisschen Deutsch, ich lerne immer noch.
Wow, that's amazing.
So how's everything going, Phry? Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day. I do appreciate your time, and welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited, and I've been excited for the entire week, and really looking forward to doing this.
Cool. I'm happy to hear that. So, tell us a little bit about growing up in. I know you're originally from Germany, so if you can just talk a little bit about how that was growing up and how things were for you back in the golden age.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in the 1980s.
There you okay, right. Oh, you're also
yeah, I was born in 84.
84, okay, yeah, right on.
I'm a child of the 90s mostly, yeah. I was born and then later raised in a small town in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is in the west of Germany. And back then, Germany was still divided. That was before the fall of the Berlin Wall, 3 years before. No, 84. 5 years before.
Oh, and you lived through that.
Yeah, I was actually also once
on the
visiting.
West side.
On the west side. I was actually also once visiting the eastern part of Germany with my family. We were seeing some friends in Berlin, and I still remember crossing the border and the people from East Germany checking our car and seeing the Berlin Wall when it was still standing.
Wow, that's crazy because like I told you, my wife is from Germany and she was from the east side. So I've heard stories about how it was when the wall came down because she was born in 82. So she was also a child when that happened, but it's always fascinating to hear the stories of the reactions of people, and then there was people from the east that were rushing to get over to the west, and it was. I read about it when I was younger, and then we would hear stories about it. You see it on TV documentaries, but to actually hear stories, personal stories of people that lived through it, it was always fascinating for me.
Oh yeah, I once stayed with a guy from East Germany when I was on vacation in Bavaria, and we my ex-girlfriend and we did some couch surfing there, and we met this guy and stayed at his place, and he was when he was younger, he was actually fleeing from East Germany by swimming. Like he swam from one of the beaches somewhere in East Germany right through Denmark at night with a friend.
Wow.
Like they were in the water for like
and that water,
48
that
hours.
water is ice
Yeah,
cold.
yeah. That was really, really impressive. Like they were in the water for, I think, almost 48 hours until they were rescued by the Danish. And yeah, then he made it to West Germany,
Man.
and they allowed him in here.
That just goes to show what the human body can do, like out of desperation. And my
Yeah.
goodness, that's really pushing it to
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
limits.
I was also really
Yeah,
fascinated by that.
so we kind of got off track right there.
Yeah.
So I just had to. So back to how it
Okay.
was for you growing up on the west side.
Right. So, yeah, I was growing up in this rather small town, and it's a very conservative little town, really boring. But like for the first few years of my life, I still have very fond memories. Up until I was 7 years old, probably. Yeah, and those come mostly from spending a lot of time with my grandparents, because my paternal grandfather, who was a retired railwayman, he used to ride trains and buses with me all the time. And in Wuppertal, where he lives, they have this, this Schwebebahn, this monorail upside down train, which he took me on like every day I saw him, and I really loved that. And he also let me like watch construction sites for hours, because like almost like any little boy, that's what fascinated me, like all the excavators and the heavy machinery. And my maternal grandfather, he had a house in the woods, and he would often take me for long walks through the forests and explain nature to me, which I also like really loved and found fascinating. And yeah,
That's a cool thing, because you were introduced to the outdoors,
right.
and that's always like there's a lot of people that I know, probably especially more nowadays, that from an early age all they know is technology. But it seems like, at least in the beginning, that you had the outdoors experience. Your grandfathers, what they were taking you to see a lot of what's going on in the real world.
Right. Yeah, and I'm very, very grateful for that to this day. Like, even though I don't really like the town where I grew up now, because like once you grow up, things become very stale and boring there. But growing up there as a child was actually more beneficial, because like we had lots of nature there, and it was safe to be on the streets all day long, as opposed to like later on I met many children who grew up in bigger cities, and like they got into drugs and other bad stuff really early. So I'm really happy.
I have to ask you, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, when you were going through the woods and would walk through the forest, did you guys ever go pills hunting?
No, my grandfather didn't hunt.
That's
hunt
mushrooms.
those. Yeah. But
Just for the people that didn't get what I was saying.
yeah, no, we mostly, like, he showed me like all the like the traces of the animals, and which animal would make a certain trace.
That's cool.
Yeah,
the
and also
Schwein.
yeah, and like birds and rabbits and deer and stuff like that.
That's cool, because when we always take walks through the forest, my wife and I, and my little dog, our little dog, and it's usually October, I think, October, November, maybe even September, but you can see people with their baskets and their bags, and they're out there looking for the mushrooms.
Yeah, that's a cool thing to do, but unfortunately I never did that, and
Okay.
to this day I'm not really into like these kind of mushrooms, like the ones you just eat.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't really like the taste that much, but there's other mushrooms I've enjoyed in the past.
Now the other ones, we might be getting off topic a little bit, but the
Yeah.
other ones, do you pick those out yourself or?
No, I bought them. The Netherlands are always like an hour away from here, so you can hop over there and buy some.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. So you had an outdoorsy childhood. It sounded like.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the first like 10 to 12 years, definitely. So yeah, the reason why I mentioned my grandparents first before my parents is that, like, even though my mother is a very loving and caring woman, and she spent a lot of time with my sister and me when we were very young, like she was raising us, reading us and telling us stories, and also always talking to us like we were adults. So I actually learned how to speak like at a very, very early age, like when I was like, I think 1.5 years old. And my mother, she sometimes told me that whenever she went shopping with me and was asking me, hey, what should we get? And I was answering her, yeah, maybe some apples and stuff like that. Then she would often say that other people were turning their heads like, whoa, he's so young. How come he's already talking that good?
You were talking like a grown adult.
Yeah, I think mostly because she was reading and telling us stories so much and facilitating our interests as well.
Okay.
Which was really helpful. And I'm like what you said earlier, nowadays so many children are mostly raised by the TV or the internet, which can be very harmful and actually hinder your ability to speak and to understand things.
Especially when it's coming from outside sources, like you're not even having, say, for instance, if you have a child and you're not having control over it, you might be at work, you might not be around. So they're getting this influence from so many different sources, and a lot of times, maybe more often than not, it's not coming from a good place.
Yeah, like from a place of love and guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, you're easily influenced, and the influence it could be rotten to the core.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but even though like my mother did all that, she also suffers and still to this day from manic depression. And my father, on the other hand, he did not, but we never really had the best relationship since him and I are basically polar opposites and like both in our character and interests. And like he never had much patience with children per se, like when it came to teaching and explaining stuff. So I basically had to teach myself how to swim, ride a bike, and all that stuff, because like even though he tried, with him I could never do it, because like there was little to no patience involved. And I know from him growing up that his parents also, even though like my grandparents were the nicest to my sister and me, you know how it is, like when they become grandparents, they kind of change, you know. And when they had him, they weren't also being very patient with him. So I think this was the reason for him having trouble explaining stuff.
Were you the oldest? Were you the older of the?
Yeah,
of
my
your
sister is 2.5 years younger than me. And yeah, I also, like much later, like when I was already 21 years old, I also found out that he's not my biological father, but that he first met my mother when she was already pregnant with me. I mean, that didn't really affect me. I was a bit disappointed that they hadn't told me earlier, but he was saying that they feared that when I was still going to school that I would like neglect my school, and because I got angry or stuff like or something like that.
Do you mind talking about if you ever found out who your biological father was, or if your mother ever?
Oh yeah, I met him shortly after that.
Oh,
because
okay.
like he was sending my mother a letter, and he wanted to meet me, and Yeah, there was also no real connection with him. I mean,
Even
I
to this
guess,
day, you don't really.
yeah, I found a letter. I found one of his letter in my mailbox like a couple of months ago, and he wanted to reconnect with me again. But at this point, like my relationship to both my parents isn't the best. I actually, because of her condition and because of her not taking care of it properly, I'm now avoiding contact with my mother because things have gotten worse now. And since my sister already has 3 kids, and she's a grandmother now, and still doing the same things that she did when my sister and I were young, I once told her that either you're going to therapy and work on it, and once I find out that you've been doing this for, let's say, like half a year and still continue doing that, then we can be in contact again. That was like almost 2 years ago, and to this day she hasn't taken care of that. So yeah,
That's strong for you to do, because I know a lot of people, because of the fact that it's a mother or father or even a sister or brother, even if the relationship is toxic, they can't sever the ties. It could be out of guilt or for whatever the reason is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be any good for you to hold on to it. And like what you did was, I mean, you gave her, if it's an ultimatum, or you gave her the opportunity. If this is important to you, you can work on yourself, and when I see some improvement, we can go ahead and try to build again. But until then, it's probably better that it stays the way it is.
absolutely, yeah. And it's not that like my sister and I haven't tried helping her. Like we were doing everything possible in our that we could do to help her, but she never really like the. It's really important that when you have problems like that, that you yourself do the first steps, or the most important steps, and she didn't do that. And so
Exactly.
all my sister and I did for her was basically for nothing. And at a certain point, like you can't do anything anymore, and then it's better to tell those people, hey, figure this out yourself or leave me alone.
Right. Yeah. And you still have it out there. Like whenever you do get it together, I'm still here.
Absolutely. Yeah, once I see that, and I like my sister, she is still in contact with her, even though like also not that much. But I always, when I talk to my sister, I always ask her how she's doing, and yeah, she's always telling me the same thing. Yeah, not well, but she's also not taking care of it. So
The same old song, and then it's eventually, when do you draw the line?
right. Yeah, and that takes me back like to my childhood, because like at the time I was 7, my parents then split up and later got a divorce. And at first, like my sister and I, we were devastated, but we later accepted it, because for the last couple of years of their marriage, they were constantly fighting, and this is something I also still remember. And them not fighting every day was for the better for us. But like apart from that, one of the biggest mistakes my parents made then was always talking badly about each other in the absence of the other one after the divorce, even. And they were like often trying to turn my sister and me against the other one, and also their new partners, which is probably why to this day I still have a huge problem with authority, and I stopped listening to them very, very early.
Did you feel like they were doing that to try to get you to side with one or the other, like trying to put themselves in a good light and put the other in a
Yeah.
bad light so you would side with them, or?
Yeah. I mean, they were still relatively young when that happened. They were about my age now. I'm now 38. And when they got divorced, they were also 38. And I think my mother, like being manic depressive, and my father also having had the troubles with his parents when he were younger. I think they didn't have the what's the word?
They pretty much weren't taught how to raise a child.
Yeah.
I spoke about this before, and it really comes down to, if you're not handed over information, or you don't have the tools mentally, physically, whatever it is, to deal with a situation, how can you pass that on to the next?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's not something that you're passed down, and it's not something that you learned yourself, there's really no, you're dealing with an empty tool bag.
Right. And I think in order to improve on yourself and improve your situation, you have to become very introspect.
Yes.
Yes.
Like
always thinking about, hey, what have I done wrong today, or why did I do the things I've done, and how can I turn things around? And both my parents are, even to this day, not really the kind of people who would do that. I mean, my father, now that he's a grandfather, which is something that also happened with his parents, like with my nephews and niece. He's a completely different person. He used to be unnecessarily strict when we were younger. I still remember that we weren't allowed to talk when we were eating, and which, this is a good thing. The TV had to be turned off, and we had to finish our meals before we could get up. And now when I see him with his grandchildren, they can do anything they want. They can watch TV. They don't have to finish their meals, and can get their dessert right away. And whenever I tell him, hey, you know how it was back then, he's like, nah, you're exaggerating.
So it's safe. Is it safe to say, I mean, from what I gathered right now, is you're the opposite? You're more of a introspective person?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's funny that you mentioned about not being able to get up, because that was the same thing when we were younger. It was, if you don't finish your food, you can't go outside and play. And our dinner table was right next to the window. I was always the last one to finish the food. And so I'm peeking out the blinds. My brothers are already done with their food. They're playing outside. All the kids are riding their bikes, running around in the street. And I'm looking out the window, and my mom is like, you can't get up until you finish the food. And oh my God, that was the worst. I would have to force it down, but I found a way, and finally it's like, good.
Yeah.
It's like I'm out of prison. I can go outside and play now.
Yeah. I mean, some rules are, of course, for the better. But I still remember so many things that were unnecessary, especially with him. And so this is the main reason why I stopped listening to my parents at a relatively early age, and stopped seeing them as role models.
You were saying you had a trouble with authority after that.
Yeah, sure. Because when you're being told what to do, and even when you're pretty young, you already figured out some of this doesn't really make sense. Then nowadays, whenever anyone tells me what to do and I smell bullshit, I'm not doing it.
So is it more just out of a rebel without a cause, or you feel like it's more of you questioning authority? I think you're not just going to go along with it just to go along with it. You this doesn't make sense. Why am I going to do that?
Yeah. I mean, now I'm definitely a rebel, but I think up to until I was probably 12 or 13 years old, I was probably a really well-behaved child. I still remember I had a friend when I was 10 years old. He was more of a real troublemaker, and maybe he was also having a bad influence on me.
He was a hellraiser.
Yeah. But when I was out with him, he was always doing
the opposite of what he should have been doing.
Right, and I kind of became like that when I was in my teens, 13, 14.
I think that's when a lot of it, for a lot of different reasons, we start to put our hand in the fire when we shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I was also seeing how, or more, I was understanding more how about my mother's condition because,
Oh, okay.
like during my teenage years, I remember like whenever she was depressed, she would often cause unnecessary trouble for the family and mostly for my sister and me. Like she would sometimes disappear without out a warning, or completely like neglect herself and let herself go. Like I remember when I was about 15 to 17 years old, that all she did in with her day was like watching soap operas, and most of the time with my sister before she got to an age where she wanted to go out and meet friends and party.
Wow. So you pretty much were having to take care of things on your own, huh?
Yeah, most of the time. Sometimes my sister and I just took care of everything. With like whenever she had a manic phase, for instance, she would often make plans and promises to us, like, oh, we're going on vacation and we're doing this and that, which then never happened because what many people often do is like they make plans and they're excited about stuff and they don't even know how to do things. Yeah, my sister and I, we were slowly getting used to that and practically raising ourselves more and more as time went by.
And this was you were still in high school, or yeah, pretty much high school during this time.
Yeah, yeah. That was also like around the time that I had my first depression.
You mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, the first severe depression was when I was about 16 years old because I had to repeat a year at school, and I really basically couldn't really connect with the people in my new class. And over the course of that school year, as the contact to my old friends from before became less frequent, because like once you're not in the same class anymore, this just happens, you know. I became more and more of a loner, and like every day after school, I would just sit at home all day playing video games by myself. Like I started playing video games before that, but I always played them with my friends because that was something they were also doing, and we would often play together. But like the combination of that, like playing video games all the time, and then seeing how my mother and sister were also just being very passive and watching TV all day, and then failing to connect with the people at school, that I think those were the catalysts for me becoming more and more depressed, to the point where I became like really blocked and I couldn't talk to people anymore. Like whenever I was at school during the breaks and in between the lessons, when I was trying to talk to people, I couldn't think of anything. Like nothing would come out of my mouth. And that was also when I had to say something during class, when the teacher picked me out to say something. So before that, I was always very talkative and a pretty creative child, and I would often write stories or draw comic strips with my friends, and all of that was completely gone. And even though I tried real hard to come up with anything during like a conversation, I couldn't think of anything. I was like really, really blocked, and that bothered me a lot.
You think now? I know you said it was a combination of things. So it sounds like it was the environment. It wasn't really the healthiest of environments because of you're looking around and your sister, your mother, they're not in a good place, and you're not doing much of anything at the time but playing video games and kind of losing the human connection that you once had. So it was safe to say it was a combination of all those things that put you in a depressive state.
Yeah. It might also be hereditary as well, because like not only was my mother having these depressions and manic phases all the time, but my grandmother due to the fact that her parents, my great-grandparents, they were both killed during the Nazi occupation of Germany. So she grew up in a foster home, and she never really dealt with that. Still to this day, I don't know much about it because she would not often talk about it, especially not with her grandchildren, but also not with my mother and her siblings. But she would often let things out on them. You know, not only is my mother having problems to this day, but some of my uncles and aunts. I think this like really messed up 3 generations of my family, which is understandable. I mean, that was a horrible, horrible time.
So during that time when you weren't able to connect with the kids, you were in school but having a hard time focusing, and now was this all throughout school, or there was a time where you kind of wiggled your way out of it and things started to look more on the positive side?
Yeah, that happened after that school year because I talked to my class teacher. I told him that I would like to be transferred to another class where I knew more people, and where also some of my old friends who had also to repeat a year. Luckily, he said yes, since he saw how much I hated being in his class. Not because of him, though, because he was a great teacher, and I had him later on. I had him as my history teacher again, which is the reason why I still to this day I'm very interested in history and often read or watch documentaries about it. But yeah, he let me go to a different class, and soon after that my condition changed for the better. I made new friends there. I went out more and spent less and less time playing video games. Yeah, that lasted for that entire year. But then when I turned 18, I had another severe depression phase because, like most of the people I hung out with, changed schools after that year, and I was mostly on my own again. So the same thing happened again, and this time I remember on my 18th birthday, I was thinking like, now you're 18, now you have to basically become an adult, and I was thinking right away, and I was trying to study real hard at school and to kind of change my my behavior more to become a better student. But after a while, when I saw that I was mostly on my own and I still couldn't connect with all the other people in my class, then the next depression phase kicked in and I got blocked again.
It seemed like you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I was always like a nonconformist at school because like I said, like about the time I turned 12, 13, I was becoming like a rebel myself, and which was also like probably a reason why I couldn't connect with most of the people at school, because most of them were really nice kids and they were coming from good homes. And I always had the feeling that they were, because they knew my parents were divorced, and especially when I was younger, some of their parents told them like, you have to help this guy, he's having trouble at home. And I always hated that. I didn't want to be treated differently, you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Can you kind of give a picture or an example of how it looked like for you during that second phase? Because I know you said there was a second phase where you had I wouldn't call it a phase, but the second depression episode that you had. Like, were there certain things that manifested because of it? Like, say, for instance, not speaking with anybody, kind of going in your shell, distancing yourself, anything like that?
Yeah, all that, and plus like a certain feeling of guilt because I tried really hard to become like a quote unquote better person by studying and behaving all the time, and I kind of felt like this wasn't me. I think I had to learn how to be okay with the fact that I'm a nonconformist, and I don't easily fit in like, especially at school. You know how school is. They don't really want you to be creative or think differently. So yeah, but that kind of made me feel a bit guilty, I guess. But at the same time, I also experienced that something was missing from my life, because I mentioned before that I was always a very creative child, and whenever I found something I liked, I would like really delve into it and become obsessed with
Right.
it. So for a time when I was younger, it was drawing, like drawing comic strips and pictures of superheroes and reading comic books, and then it became inline skating, mountain biking, for a couple of years martial arts, and when I turned 17, also weightlifting. But like it's the case with so many children, I would either lose interest in that, or couldn't further pursue some of that because of like monetary reasons or family troubles as well.
Right.
Yeah, I needed something in my life to get out of this, because like I saw with my mom, she had her first child, which I found out much later, when she was in her early 20s, or when she was even, I think, 19, like my older half brother, whom I met much later, who didn't grow up with us. I think she could never find or pursue anything that would maybe help her overcome her depressions and manic phases. So I kind of, maybe this more subconsciously, but I kind of felt that I needed something in my life to really help me focus and get out of this cycle, because like I said, this was already the second time I had severe depression, and I was kind of fearing that, like with my mother, this would always be happening to me again and again.
That depression, it seems like it even not forced you, but it put you in a position where you started to look inward and figure out, how can I get myself out of this and get better?
Yeah, but at that point, I didn't really have a clue, so I just basically I set it out. I lived through my days waiting for anything to happen, and then.
And you were already out of school by this time.
No, I was still at school. I was 18, and
Okay.
I had like 3 years ahead of me. In Germany, we go to the equivalent of high school a little longer than people in the U.S. Like we
Okay.
usually, it depends on when you first go to school. But I since I also had to repeat a year, I graduated school when I was already 21. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
still had 3 years to go. And yeah, shortly after that depression finally ended, I was then like one night watching MTV, and all of a sudden like the music video for the Guns N' Roses song "Sweet Child of Mine" came on. And I knew about that band before, and I liked a couple of their songs like November Rain, and but I didn't really knew who they were. And then seeing Slash for the first time, playing the song and the whole vibe of the video, that really spoke to me somehow, like an entire new level. And even though I was like interested in music for a while already, I was only writing songs, like lyrics, kind of mostly rap rock stuff, because back then I was still listening to like Kid Rock
Okay.
and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, but also like lots of hip hop, like Run DMC, Cypress Hill, A Tribe
Okay,
Called
some
Quest.
old school stuff.
Yeah, I still love that to this day. I'm really into the old school hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that kind of gave me the idea. Maybe I should try becoming a guitarist, because like I kind of felt like a connection to Slash, like all his mystique. Like he was just standing there with his Les Paul, and you couldn't really see his face, and he's more like a character, you know. And that really fascinated me.
He was entertaining.
Yeah.
He was entertaining.
And yeah, so I asked a guy from school who knew how to play guitar to show me like my first couple of chords and write them down for me. And then I got an old acoustic guitar from my mother's then partner and started practicing right away. And after just 1 week, I was already hooked. Like I knew I had found my thing, you know. And I wanted to do nothing else but becoming a great guitarist, because like after 1 week of playing, I already knew all the chords and I could strum them and play around with them. Even though I was already like 18 years old, and I knew that most musicians start at a very early age, like when they're like 6 or 7 years old. I still had more than 2 years of school ahead of me, which was like, okay, I can, like an excuse for me to really focus on that, because I didn't have to go to work and do grown-up stuff, you know. So yeah, all I did from that point on was playing the guitar. Like after school, I would play up to 6 hours every day, and on the weekends I would even play up to 12 hours.
Man, would you just lock yourself in the room and?
Yeah, when I like the 12-hour thing, that was like I met two amazing guitar teachers. Or first, the first one I met, he was only like I think 2.5 years older than me, and he was becoming more of a good friend. But he would take me to a session place in Düsseldorf every weekend, where you could just hop on stage and play with like seasoned musicians. And
Oh, cool. Okay.
I really after playing for the entire day, we would go there and then play sessions with like really amazing musicians, which I'm really grateful for, because there I learned how to improvise and listen to others and what they're doing.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you guys just on stage together, improvising, just playing off each other?
Yeah, we would never play covers. Like we would always like
freestyle.
Yeah, more like kind of I'd call it aggressive funk, because it was like we were playing like since I wasn't that good yet, I would just play one funky dominant seventh chord and really just listen to the bass player and drummer, what they were doing, then just work on like the dynamics with them. And we would often just play on one chord, but then there would be my guitar teacher and buddy. He would like solo over it. And
that's a good
really
way.
Cool.
I think that's a good way to sharpen your chops, because you're not just reading off of you're not just reading off of a paper, but you're actually feeling it.
Yeah.
You're playing off each other,
right.
And that has a lot more passion. And like it sounds, you were already the creative type, so that was right up your alley.
Right. Plus, it was okay to smoke weed in there, even by the cops. Like one night, the cops were there, and I was like, "Oh shit! What should we do?" Like, no, they say it's okay. It's better. They say it's better for like the musicians like smoking in here than going
just anybody
through
on the street.
Yeah, right. Going through town and bothering people there. So yeah, they were okay with it.
So that's the way to smoke weed here legally. You got to know how to play an instrument.
Yeah, and then just jam with others.
You get a pass.
Yeah, and and I really enjoyed those years, because that helped me become a better guitarist. And after 1 year, I started taking lessons from my guitar teacher's teacher, because he wasn't he didn't have the time anymore to teach me. And so I went to his old teacher, and from him I learned like so much about music theory, and learned all the scales and how to improvise over certain chords. And I became like really, really good over like in a short amount of time. I remember then that when I graduated school after like 2.5 years later, I was like already better than most guitarists I knew who had started playing at a very early age.
It's safe to say, from the music, that was like a lifesaver for you.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you that from that day on, when I started playing, I never experienced depression again. But then there was one last, but like the most severe phase shortly after I started playing, because that was like what I told you before we started recording. What my new song is also about. Like I fell in love with a girl at school that I shouldn't have fallen in love with because she was already in a relationship, and there was like no chance for me of getting together with her. And yeah, same thing. Like it really messed me up, because like she was also hanging out with those people who were coming from quote unquote good family situations, and it kind of again made me feel like an outsider because I couldn't connect with those people. Before that, it didn't bother me that much because I had my guitar and I had new friends, like mostly musicians, and I was hanging out with them, and they were also all nonconformist people. But yeah, since I was like way too much in love with her, and like there was no hope for that, yeah, I became like really depressed again, and I even then had at one point a manic phase where I lost sense of reality for like a couple of days, which I had never experienced before, and that like really shook me.
Whoa,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
sorry to cut you off, but I'm interested a bit. If you don't mind just sharing, I know you said it was for a
yeah.
couple of days, but just how exactly does that feel like, or what were you going through during those 2 days?
Um,
If you can even recall, because I know you.
yeah,
It seems
yeah. I
like you
can't
lose.
go too much into detail because some of it is a little embarrassing
No,
for
no,
me, to
that's
be
fine.
honest.
That's fine. Yeah.
But like one of the things is, when like some people that often happens to people who are addicted to amphetamines, like meth, for instance. You start
Hallucinating.
overthinking things, yeah, and seeing patterns where there aren't any. Like I remember one day walking around town thinking that everyone was watching me and talking about me. And when I was like overhearing conversations from strangers, I was like projecting everything they said onto myself, and I was thinking they are talking about me.
Wow,
That lasted for
that's
like a couple
scary.
of days, and after that, yeah, it was, but it luckily it was like the only time I've had it, because after that, I was like really shortly after that, I was still struggling with the depression side, but once I got out of that, I knew that I had to keep working on myself, and I did that through
Now,
music.
did not to stay on that topic too long, but did
Yeah.
how did that end? Did you just snap out of it, or
Um, I think I like the manic phase. Yeah, my first guitar teacher, who was a good friend of mine, he kind of took care of me. Like he let me sleep at his place and sit things out mostly. And he was talking to me because he also knew
slowly
about
brought you
the
out of
girl
it
I
then?
was in love with, right? And after that, like I said, after that was over, I still was struggling with severe depression for a couple of months, even. Mostly also because I saw the girl like every day because we were going to school together, and
Oh,
we still had I think a full year of school ahead of us. Yeah, seeing her every day. Yeah, I don't know if you know that Pink Floyd song "Coming Back to Life."
coming
"Coming
back to
Back to
life.
Life."
I
It's
do.
from their later albums. By the way, Pink Floyd is to me the most beautiful music I can imagine, and it speaks to me on like on another level. Like this is probably their music is the music I can most identify with.
That's the one that hits home for you. It speaks to the
Right?
heart. Now,
Yeah, I can
correct me if
always
I'm
listen to
wrong.
that.
I don't know if I never tried to do it, but I used to always hear about it when I was younger. There was one of his albums. I don't know if it's Dark Side of the Moon that you can play
Hmm.
through with the Wizard of Oz in the background, or it plays along
Yeah, and
with it.
also with 2001, like with the final 20 minutes of 2001. It's Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, how does that look, look like or sound like? It just goes together,
Yeah,
or
it's kind of synced. I've only done it with 2001, not with the Wizard of Oz, but it's creepy.
is it pretty trippy?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna have to do that.
They were. I've seen an interview with was it with David Gilmour or with Roger Waters, one of them, and they were asking him about it, and he said it's pure coincidence, but maybe it's because it's great art, and it's coming from a certain place, you know.
Right, and then sometimes I guess even if there's two separate mediums of the art form, but on a subconscious level, somewhere somehow they connect and sync, and if you find the right match, you realize, oh wow, these two go together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's the song "Echoes," by the way, from the album before "Dark Side of the Moon." Like if you listen to Echoes, yeah, it's a 20-minute song and it's so epic and impressive on its own. But if you sync that up to the final 20 minutes of 2001, then it's like a music video.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna set some time aside to see how that goes.
I think there's a cut on YouTube where you don't have to put in the work and just can sit back and enjoy it.
I mean, YouTube. Yeah. What can't you find on YouTube?
Absolutely right.
So your teacher or not your mentor, but your friend, your guitar teacher, he slowly helped you come to grips with reality, come back to life.
Right. Yeah, like we would still go to that session place and hang out even more than before, which really helped me because he's also like a nonconformist, and we're basically the same person to a certain extent, and we were getting along so well. So I was always like jamming with him, and then I continued taking lessons from his teacher, but at the same time, like all this dedicating myself to becoming the best guitarist I could be, I think that mostly that has then had changed me and helped me, first of all, overcoming that, but then later on, never fall into that trap again.
That's important. That's a powerful
because
one. To stay out of it.
Yeah, because through music, I learned like what focus and discipline really mean and how to calm myself down. Since before that, I've always been like a rather lively and hectic person, especially when I was a teenager, and I constantly need new input or I get bored, which is probably why school was such a big problem for me in the first place, like that too. And like over the years, I became more patient, both with myself and then later on also with other people, since I, like after 3 years of playing, I became a guitar teacher. And to this day, I have been teaching students from all age groups, walks of life, and experience level. And that's, for almost like 17 years now.
So you're doing that full time?
Yeah. So now I'm slowly switching from being a full-time guitar teacher to solely being a musician. But at the moment, it's still half-half.
Do you do that mostly online, or do you do live guitar lessons, or a combination of both?
My students, they come to my place here, and I play with them. It's one-on-one, because I also do online guitar lessons, mostly like a video course that I offer as part of my...
Okay, I've seen it. I've seen your YouTube channel. You have a lot of those. Those are good. I mean, most of it is in Deutsch, but I mean, I see that you also offer those.
Yeah, the English ones are in my for my online Patreon course, and I mean, those are good. If someone would ask me, hey, I can't afford like one-on-one guitar lessons, but I want to learn how to play guitar anyway, I would definitely recommend like these video lessons and doing that. But there's still like...
There's nothing like that one-on-one hands-on, like together in the
Absolutely.
same room,
Yeah,
right?
even with all those books now and like DVDs you can get and YouTube videos, it's still because you can do so many things wrong. Even if you have like an instruction in front of you, like a book or even a video, you can still like put your fingers slightly wrong there on the fretboard, and maybe yeah, also other things like tone control and stuff like that. And once you have someone that you're seeing like on a weekly or like bi-weekly basis who sees what you're doing and then is able to correct you, that's still irreplaceable.
Yeah. So the music was that was your outlet.
Absolutely, yeah. And the main catalyst for me never falling into that depression or even manic phase trap ever again.
Everybody has their reason, their why. I always hear that you got to find your why, or some people it's a family member, it could be a partner, and I mean music. That's also that's a universal language, and for you, it speaks in a more personal and dear way than maybe the way it does to some other people.
Yeah, I mean it's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm so grateful for this. I mean, this is also the reason why I am a full-time musician and not doing this as a hobby, because I knew that if I like had gotten a job after like a real quote unquote job after school,
Yeah.
and just did the guitar thing as a hobby, I knew from my school days that I wouldn't fit in most places. Like you can't like put me in like an office space and expect me to sit there for 8 hours every day and do what I'm told, and yeah, I think had I done
I can respect that about you. I like the fact that you pretty much have accepted and embraced your individuality, nonconformist. That's the way, because everybody, I mean, especially when you're in school, they raise you and almost breed you in a way to just go by the standards, the regulations, the rules, the schedule, everything. But not everybody is like that, and everybody is
right.
different.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that had I done that, I would have probably fallen back into the same cycles.
You would have went crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not for you.
Yeah, right. And like
So it's also your I mean, it's your therapy. It's your everything. Music.
yeah, it helped me like writing songs and thinking about what has happened to me and putting that into a song and like learning how to express my feelings through the guitar as well. That helped me overcome these things. And I still I have certain family members like one of my cousins who never found anything like this, and to this day they're still blaming like everything on their childhood, and like whenever they mess up and fall back into like nasty habits, like they always mention their shitty childhood. And I think this is very unhealthy. And yeah, I never really went to therapy. Like at one point during one of the depression phases, I tried seeing a therapist. Like I literally knocked on his door, because like I come from a small town, and I knew, okay, in this house here's living a therapist. Maybe I just knock on his door and then ask him for like an appointment. But he basically just sent me away because he wasn't taking me seriously, or maybe he was too busy or something. Yeah, so like with so many things, like figuring out how to ride a bike and how to shave and stuff like that, I also had to figure out on my own how to overcome depression and how to prevent myself from ever falling into that trap again. And I'm really, really happy and grateful that I found music and that this was the thing for me.
That was your therapy office? Was every time you went to those jam sessions or you met up with that guitar instructor of yours?
Right. And then after school, like a year after that, I moved away from that small town to Cologne, where I still live to this
Okay.
day. And also, like, being in a bigger city where you can also, like, broaden your mind by, like, meeting new people every day and having exciting opportunities all around you, that also helped me. And also, like, having the physical distance to my family was, like, really important for me, because I sometimes go back to this to my hometown because my sister lives there with her family, and I'm always happy to see her and my nephews and my niece. But I'm also always happy when I'm leaving, because I really can't stand that place. You know?
It's good to go. It's good to visit, but it's so good to go.
Yeah, yeah. And I also, like, I've written a song about this. Like, my first ever solo, my first ever single as a solo artist is called "This Is the Place," and you can watch the music video on YouTube. I went back to my hometown and filmed, like, all the places I grew up at, and made, like, a music video out of this, and really tried capturing, like, the boring aspect and the dullness of this place. So yeah, like, in a way, this is also like a form of therapy. Now I have this song, and it's a catalyst, you know.
I'm sure also, like you said, for you, music has been your lifesaver and your therapy. Now, that also is probably going to be something that a lot of other people can relate to regarding the ones that come to you for lessons or the ones that you instruct. I'm sure some of them that has been the same thing for them, as far as music is what's helping me. It's what I love. It's bringing life back into my life.
Absolutely. And since I became a solo artist, I've also joined a great music coaching program. And the first thing they taught us there was how to tell our life story and how to use it in order to better connect with our audience, and in order to even, like, if that's our like our goal or intention, to help people. And I'm now, like, over a year into my solo career, and I've already built a small community of like-minded music enthusiasts, and there's a handful of people in there who also went through depression, abuse, and severe illness, who let me know that once they discovered my music and listened to a couple of my songs, that was very helpful to them. And this is, like, hearing that is, like, the greatest gift for an artist, because then you see, okay, not only did my music help me, but it's now also helping others as well.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And I'd like to also share all that information, your YouTube channel, your music, and everything that you have going on in the description box, so we can get that information from you later. And people that want to check out your music or see what you have to offer, say they have a guitar, they love strumming on the guitar strings and that type of thing, and they can connect with you in a musical sense.
Yeah, and also, if I mean, as of now, it's still mostly on Facebook, and I don't know how many people are still using that, but I have built my main community on Facebook, and there is a group called the Phry Street Team group, where all these people are meeting. So over there, you can share not only, like, your favorite music and your interests, but also let people know, like, if you were struggling with anything, and or still are, and how to overcome this, or how you overcame it. It's become the favorite thing about my music career, like, nurturing this community of people, this group, and talking to people there, and every other week I do a live stream there and play some music for the community and also share the latest news there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I can add also, I was listening to some of your stuff and I shared one of them with you, the Mirage, the new song. It's groovy, it's bluesy. Your music, it has a sound that can, there's something for everyone. If you like the hard stuff, aggressive stuff, if you like that laid back and chill stuff, something groovy, something funky, bluesy, like I said, this last one that you put out on YouTube, it's something for everyone. So I like that you can play a variety of things. And I was even on your YouTube channel and I seen that you were even giving a tutorial on how to play some Bob Marley, so reggae even.
Yeah, I mean that's I think
You
the
have a big range. You have a
yeah
dynamic range.
that's the to a part the Led Zeppelin influence, because the Zeppelin did that all the time back then. They had a funk song, they had like a reggae song even, and then like their hard rock and blues stuff. And no two of their songs ever sounded alike, and this is like my
Yeah.
approach as well.
Did
Because I
you?
also enjoy listening to all these artists. I love Bob Marley and the Wailers. I love
How about we were talking earlier about the '90s stuff. How about
yeah.
Sublime?
Oh yeah, like if Bradley hadn't if Bradley hadn't died when they like broke and released that Sublime album, I think they would have been one of the biggest artists of the
Agreed.
90s, because they were so
Agreed.
unique. Yeah, I
They
love
had the
that album.
ska,
Yeah,
the
Sublime is amazing.
reggae. They had yeah, it was a
Yeah,
little bit of
punk.
funk
Yeah,
and punk.
funk
There you
and
go.
punk
Yeah,
as well.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they. I have a lot of their stuff, and I listen to on Spotify. Like you can find a lot of everything on there. Actually, you have a Spotify playlist too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a beautiful thing that you're able to connect, and then even this community that you have going on. That's like you said, that's your baby right there. That's a joy in itself.
yeah, and one of my goals for the next couple of years is to further grow it and also expand it to my inner circle community. Like the group on Facebook is free, so you can join this and connect with people there. But I also, like, as you know, like as
Okay.
musicians, we have to live and make
Oh, of
money.
course, yeah.
I'm also like
That old saying, the starving musician.
right. And in order to not be a starving artist anymore, I'm now working on my inner circle community, which is like behind a paywall. But what you get for your money there is like you can connect with me more personally through one-on-one Zoom calls. I can teach you like in addition to my video guitar
Cool.
course,
Wow.
I can do like one-on-one Zoom sessions with you, and I will also do these live stream hangouts over Zoom, where like people can connect with each other by like, because with these Zoom calls everybody is able to speak and speak their mind there, and I'm now constantly working on that and building an even better community over there.
That's awesome, and I wish you the best with those endeavors. Now I know you're dealing with a lot of people through Zoom, and is there anything you can offer to somebody who has been through similar situations? Some advice, some tips. I know for you it was music, but just any kind of words of encouragement for somebody who may be going through that right now and they still haven't figured out how to
Hmm.
come out of that dark place.
Yeah, like if you are struggling in life, like so many people do nowadays, like even I think like after the past 3 years, even more people than ever before. I think the most reasonable thing first is, of course, to seek professional help, and take that first step, because yeah, not everyone is as fortunate as me, and find something that like grips them to a point where they dedicate their entire life to it, and having that being their like anchor. But like once you've started getting back on the right track through therapy, I would recommend try finding something that gives your life meaning and direction. And you don't necessarily have to make it like the focal point of your life like I did with my music, but it should be something that you enjoy doing every day and that helps you become a better person over time. And also, at the same time, please make sure that it's something that you could theoretically overdo without it affecting your health or your social life, because at some point in your life, it could be like the main reason for you to stay on the right path. And like playing video games, for instance, which I did before I became a musician, as fun as they are and as much of a distraction they can be from your day-to-day life, they would like not fall into the good category, because it's not healthy to be on your own and watching a screen all the time. And for many people, this is often like even the catalyst for their suffering and the reason for their depression. But it can be anything. It can, like you said, it can be finding a partner, or starting a family, or art in general, like painting, writing stories. Like I have one of my fans who recently became a songwriter, and that is helping her through depression, and that's giving her like so much self-esteem. And I write with her every day, and she often sends me what she's been working on, and now she's making like new connections, like networking all the time, and that is really helping her, you know.
Perfect. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. And what's really important is to always be honest with yourself, and always bear in mind that you yourself have to make the first step. You have to want it. Nobody can force you to do this. And even though, like, maybe you find some people who are meaning well, and this is like something that I've experienced from dealing with my mother. If the person going through all that is not serious about wanting to change their lives, then it's almost no use. Like it doesn't even matter if you treat the person
That's a great point.
right or wrong, because to them it's kind of the same. They will always find an excuse to fall back into old habits and start or do the same mistakes again, even though like all the people around them is giving their best to prevent this. So like what you really have to, if you are wanting to get out of your situation, and if you are wanting to seek help, you still have to remember that it's always mostly on you. So you really have to want it. Otherwise, there's no use. You can just say, okay, I'm going to therapy now, but I will not be honest with my therapist. At least only be honest to them to a certain degree. That it doesn't work that way. You have to be completely honest, both with yourself and with your therapist, and also with the people around you, and to really, stick to it. You cannot half-ass this.
That's right. That reminds me of the old saying, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink it.
Right.
And you have to do the work. And that is pretty much what you did when you were going through your episodes, and when you weren't doing too well. You looked in, and you, in your mind, in your spirit, in your heart, you felt like, I've got to change some things. I can't stay this way.
Yeah,
and then
it's
you
not,
made the effort.
Right. Yeah, and it's not that I'm now like 100% happy all the time, and nothing is happening to me anymore. I have still suffered like a couple of setbacks, even after I became a musician, and even quite recently. But I have found something that will always like ground me and always
Your
be
anchor.
there
You have your
for
anchor
me,
to
my
get
anchor,
back to.
right? And whenever I encounter problems, setbacks, and bad things happening to either me or the people around me, I can now always find both comfort and encouragement in my music, and stay level-headed and work these things out.
Exactly. And that's just being realistic. That's a part of life. You know, things aren't always going to be peaches and roses and
Yeah,
strawberries and rainbows. We're going to deal with
yeah,
our we're going to have our issues. The point is that you're still in a good place to where you're making the effort to do better. If it's every day, whatever it is that grounds you, for you it's music, whatever it is that you have to fall back on or to help you out when those times do come, because it's a fight. I mean, it's you're fighting a good fight, and we're all still a work in progress.
right. And I mean, what's good about the internet and like modern technology is that whatever you are looking for, if it's like additionally, if it's help or inspiration, you can now find it more easy than ever before. And I also have people that I look up to, like I look up to Jordan Peterson a lot, because he's doing
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do on an entirely different level. Like, he's helping out so many people with his books and his lectures. And then there's this guy I have found pretty recently, David Goggins, who is a
Oh yeah,
former
the one who's like, oh, you stop making excuses, get out there and do
right.
it.
Yeah. And he's like, I think
He
he's
was a
like
Navy
the
SEAL, right?
toughest
Ex
guy.
Navy
Right.
SEAL.
Yeah. I think he's the toughest guy on the planet at the moment. Like, I have, like, when I first listened to him speaking on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I was glued to the podcast. Like, I was soaking up everything he said, because he comes from a place of depression. He was
Yeah.
overweight when he was younger, and he was not taking care of himself. And somehow he has developed something that only very, very few people on this planet have found, which is like true will, which is something that I would never say that I have found, but with me, it's pure luck, like that I have found music, and I'm kind of disciplined, but what this guy has is something entirely different, like something that could never be taken away from him. And I look up to people like that, because I think they're here for a reason. They are, especially now, since that's something he always says, that since people have become or are becoming weaker and weaker, like people like that, they are here to show those people, or like every one of us, how it could be done.
Yeah. I also, speaking of David Goggins, because I know he's real big about taking responsibility for yourself, and I can say that I get that from you, because going back to earlier when you were saying that you know people that or you have cousins, it could be family members. I mean, I know people, and I was even one of those, that it was always somebody else. They're not giving me a chance. They're looking at me this way. But there's so many people that we could point the blame to, but when you finally take responsibility for your own actions, your own choices, and taking control of your life, that's when you can finally see some
Absolutely.
changes.
Yeah. I mean, I remember me being the same. Like, before, I was also like, yeah, my parents are divorced, and I have lots of cases of depression and addiction in my family, and maybe that's hereditary, and yeah, stuff like that. But at a certain point in your life, you have to distance yourself from that, because once you're a grown adult, it's mostly on you.
Yeah, you had a lot of excuses or reasons to say this isn't going to work and effort, but when you're younger, we're all born into different conditions and you don't have control over that. But like you said, once you get a little bit older, you can start making some changes and some adjustments and figure out what isn't working, what you see, and how can you change that for the better. And you, through music, there's a lot of people that find different outlets, but the point is you have to find it within yourself to start taking action.
That's true. Absolutely.
Phry, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate your words, your time, and I'd like to share everything that you have going on in the description box after this is published with your music and even your community, everything that you have going on. Your music is, I dig it, so I'm a fan. So I look forward to listening to more of what you have on the YouTubes and the Spotifys. And is there anything else that you would like to leave off with before we wrap this thing up?
First of all, let me thank you again for inviting me to this. And
Absolutely.
I have to say, this is the best podcast I have ever done.
Oh, that
This is
means
like,
a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, because this is like really in line with what I'm trying to get across to people. Not just, hey, look at me, I'm a guitar player and I can play this and that, but yeah, like I want to give people what I have been given with music, and yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. And yeah, the only thing I have to say is if you are like the listener, if you listeners, if you are struggling with anything like that and you feel like talking to anybody, get professional help first, and then find something that you care about. And if you're into great music, great guitar music, then you might look me up as well, and then join my community. I'll be happy to welcome you to my street team group and hear your story, because that's, to me, that's what being a musician is mostly about. Not like making lots of money and showing off your talent to the world, but meeting new and interesting people and finding more and more ways to connect with them.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Phry again for being open, for being vulnerable, allowing himself to be vulnerable, and for being strong. Because like I said before, it takes guts, it takes courage to open yourself up and to talk about things in your life that are sensitive, things in your life that are very personal. So I always appreciate it when someone like Phry comes on and is willing to share a piece of that with us. I respect it. I also respect the fact that Phry, he was willing to look within himself. He had that introspective personality to where he looked in himself to figure out, how can I get better? Looking at his environment, his mother, not in the best of conditions. And that was from a generational cycle of undealt with trauma, pain, suffering, loss, and how that cycle continued for generations. But Phry, he took it upon himself. He had something in himself that made him want to break the curse, so to speak, and to change his reality. It's not to say everything just overnight got better. As life is, we go through our ups and downs. It's a ride. It really is a ride. And even with his setbacks, even with his failures, he still got back on course, still got back on the horse, and rode on and was pushing on to try to find a better tomorrow for him. And he found it through music. And that's been his purpose now. That's his way to connect with people. That's his way to build with people who have that same passion or who have been through the same trauma, the same neglect, the same struggle. So there will be a link included in this episode to everything that Phry is involved with. He has a YouTube channel. He also does guitar lessons. He has tutorials online. He has a Facebook group. He does live streaming sessions. He's doing a lot, coaching, all of that. If you're a music lover, you like playing the guitar, you want to even learn the guitar, or you've just been inspired by his story and what he's doing, reach out to him, show him some love, connect. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to hear from you. So my hat's off to you, bro. All the best. And again, thank you again for your time, your words, and your message. And I want to thank all of the listeners, again, because I'm seeing people tuning in from all corners of the globe. And that's been encouraging and exciting to see. Thank you for tuning in, if you can and when you can, to help us know what it is that is resonating with you, what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. Either way, that's the only way we can improve and help grow this. Share it with a friend or somebody you think might find value in this. And also, let us know what platform it is you're tuned into, whether it's Spotify, Deezer, Google, Amazon Music. And if you would like to be a part of this show and share your story, or even a story of somebody in your life that has impacted you in a positive way, my door's open and you can always reach out to me via email. I'd be happy to connect. Till next time, and very soon, peace.
I'm looking for a sign to know I'm on the right road. Ain't seen no sign since Jericho.